On the eve of the engagement, my boyfriend Joseph and Hannah got a marriage certificate at a nightclub. Joseph said nonchalantly, "Just a joke, we'll get divorced tomorrow." Everyone knows Hannah and I are just brothers. Hannah, however, challenged. "Once married, always married. You're all just watching the fun, aren't you going to prepare a wedding gift for us?" The people at the table laughed heartily. "All right, I happen to have a project in the western suburbs, consider it a wedding gift. But there are rules at the drinking table. If you want it, you have to win it in a dice game." I didn't say anything more, just sat down at the table. Meeting Joseph's furrowed brow, I smiled faintly. Since it's dice for a wedding gift, I'll join in too. As I settled in, the table fell silent for a moment. Joseph reached out to wrap his arm around my waist. "All right, stop messing around, Pacey. We're just drinking and joking. You should head home early." I subtly stepped back, avoiding his embrace. My expression calm as I looked toward Hannah. "Keep your hands to yourself. Today, she's your wife." Joseph's face darkened, his tone impatient. "I've said it many times, Hannah and I are friends. If there was really something between us, you wouldn't even be in the picture." I didn't respond. I've heard this kind of thing too many times. Because Hannah forgot our date. Because Hannah left me stranded on the roadside. Because Hannah got drunk and I had to take a taxi late at night to pick her up. And now, getting a marriage license impulsively in a nightclub. It all ends with the same explanation. We're friends. The atmosphere grew awkward, and Hannah came over again. She sat directly on Joseph's lap. "All right, stop arguing." Then she looked at me, smiling. "Pacey, there's really nothing between Joseph and me. We just got carried away today. We'll get divorced tomorrow. If you're upset, I'll apologize." With that, she picked up a bottle of wine and started drinking. Joseph's expression changed, and he reached to stop her, scolding loudly. "What are you doing? Drinking so much?" Turning to me, his face was now extremely grim. "Pacey, don't go too far." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly at myself. It's fine, I'm not one to take jokes too seriously. Since I have nothing to do today, and people always say I'm not sociable, why not? The table was momentarily stunned, then everyone started smoothing things over. "That's great, Pacey. We've wanted to invite you to play for a long time. It's just that Joseph always keeps you hidden." The speaker was Joseph's longtime friend Jordan. He gestured toward Joseph. "Joseph, aren't you going to take care of Pacey?" Joseph just sneered, leaning back into the sofa. Pulling Hannah back onto his lap, his arm firmly around her waist. "Don't look at me. Tonight, she's my wife." Seeing that I was still calmly smiling without any reaction, the others began to cheer. "All right, fine, happy newlyweds. So, how are we playing?" Hannah thrived in the crowd, laughing as she explained. "Standard drinking game rules, dice. But since our good girl Pacey is here, she probably doesn't know our usual way. Let's go easy, how about just comparing numbers? Whoever loses drinks, and since we're celebrating my and Joseph's wedding tonight, there's an extra twist." Hearing this, the crowd protested. "No way. Everyone here knows you two are dice masters. Now that you're a team, where does that leave us?" Joseph's hand never left Hannah's waist, and he didn't glance at me once. He chuckled. "Then admit defeat." Jordan immediately perked up, taking off his Patek Philippe watch. "I'll start with a prize. This watch just arrived last week." The music in the bar grew louder, and the atmosphere heated up. Others began removing their jewelry and luxury watches. Another girl, Yao Yao, tossed in a Van Cleef Arpels bracelet. Joseph said nothing but unclipped his custom Hermes cufflinks. My gaze froze. I had given him those as an anniversary gift. Hannah was still excited, clinging to Joseph's hand and acting coy. I want that bracelet, hubby, win it back for me. I said nothing, simply took off my diamond earrings and placed them on the table. Congratulations on your marriage. I'll play too. The atmosphere at the table momentarily froze. Joseph's arm around Hannah's waist seemed to tighten slightly, his brows furrowing as he looked at me with displeasure and warning. Hannah was momentarily stunned, then giggled and pushed Joseph. All right, Pacey wants to play too. Then we'll have to treat her well. Jordan quickly mediated. Right, let's play. It's all in good fun. Pacey, the rules are simple, compare dice. The one with the smallest number drinks a glass and picks one item from the prizes to give to the winner as a wedding gift. He gestured to the pile of luxury watches and jewelry on the table. Of course, if you're reluctant, you can just drink without giving anything, but that would ruin the fun. I nodded, indicating I understood. Dice cups were distributed to everyone. Hannah shook hers with practiced skill. Joseph casually shook his a couple of times and set it down. But his gaze never left me. I turned away from his burning stare, picked up the dice cup, and my movements were indeed unfamiliar, even clumsy. In the gaps between the music, I could hear some murmurs. Pacey's known as a good girl. What's she doing here? She's just going to kill the mood. She's here to stake her claim, but Joseph isn't even giving her face. My face paled slightly. Hannah chuckled lightly. Tisk, Pacey, want me to teach you the proper technique first? Ignoring her, I simply imitated the motions I had seen, shaking the cup a few times before gently setting it down. Open. The cups were lifted. Hannah, 5 and 6, 11. Joseph, 2 5s, 10. The others had varying numbers, some high, some low. Finally, it was my turn. Under the lid. 1 pip and 2 pips, a total of 3. The table erupted in laughter. 3. Ha ha ha, that's the smallest. Pacey, your luck. Jordan, suppressing a laugh, pushed a glass of whiskey toward me. Pay up, drink up, and also. He glanced at my earrings. Joseph finally spoke, his voice cold and hard. If you don't know how to play, don't force it. Just drink the wine. Hannah, nestled in his arms, beamed. Oh dear, losing on the first round. Looks like tonight's gift is going to cost our Pacey. These earrings look really nice. I'll graciously accept them, then. I looked at the glass of wine, then at my earring. A pink diamond Joseph had bought for me at an auction last year, saying he wanted to give me the best things in the world. I smiled bitterly to myself, gently pushing the earring to the center of the table. Toward Hannah. Lose, pay up. I raised my eyes, my tone flat, a wedding gift, delivered. Joseph's face instantly darkened. Hannah giggled, reaching out to pick up the earring, examining it under the light. Thanks, Pacey. It's really beautiful. Jordan quickly said, all right, round 2. Round 2. The game continued. Hannah rolled a 9, not too high. But Joseph, sitting next to her, rolled a 12, a perfect score. Wow! Hubby's amazing! Hannah cheered. The others joined in the commotion. Jordan explained with a laugh, according to the rules, a perfect score lets you pick any prize on the table. Joseph didn't look at me, just hugged Hannah affectionately. Let my wife for tonight pick. What do you want? Hannah's gaze swept over the items on my side of the table, finally settling on the understated platinum bracelet on my wrist. I think Pacey's bracelet is quite unique. That one? My hand, holding the wine glass, paused almost imperceptibly. This bracelet was my grandmother's heirloom, something I never took off. Joseph knew that. The table fell silent for a moment, but Hannah continued, What's wrong? Didn't we say anything on the table counts as a prize? Pacey, you're not going to back out, are you? Or... I opened my mouth to speak, but was interrupted by Joseph's cold tone. Table rules, lose, pay up. Pacey, hand it over. I looked up sharply. My eyes burned, and I nearly burst into tears right there. I had endured him favoring Hannah time and again, but I never thought he would humiliate me to this extent. A flicker of impatience crossed Joseph's face, but his outstretched hand showed no sign of retreating. Even Jordan sensed something was off. What's so special about a bracelet? Hannah, I'll buy you 2 more. Hannah's face hardened. Didn't we agree before sitting down? If you can't take it, don't play. Joseph sneered. Pacey, I told you to go home earlier. You chose to stay and play. I said, hand it over. My hands trembled slightly. Fighting back tears, I removed the bracelet. Joseph didn't even look at it, tossing it directly to Hannah. She glanced at it under the light, then pursed her lips. Not that impressive, really. She carelessly tossed it onto the table. Just then, someone bumped into the table, knocking over a wineglass, and the red wine spilled all over the bracelet. I clenched my fists unconsciously, a heavy weight pressing on my chest. Hannah, however, started urging again. Come on, why is everyone just standing there? Let's continue. In the 3rd round, I rolled a 7, neither high nor low. Hannah rolled a 9. Joseph rolled 2 ones, the lowest. Hannah chuckled, hubby, your luck's not so great today. Joseph ignored her and silently prepared to drink the penalty wine. But Hannah beat him to it, taking the glass from his hand and downing it for him, winking as she said, There, since we're a team tonight. Listening to the cheers around me, I gradually grew numb. For several rounds in a row, I seemed to hover on the edge of danger. Glass after glass went down, and most of my jewelry was lost. Even the Chanel handbag I had brought with me today was lost to Hannah. Until my cheeks flushed, my vision began to blur, and my hand holding the dice cup started trembling slightly. To outsiders, it looked like I was getting reckless. Another round, and Jordan, who was the dealer, set the rules. Comparing numbers is boring. This round, let's change it up, bet on your roll. If you think you can roll 8 or higher, double the stakes. And the prizes have to increase too. Small stakes are no fun. Hannah immediately responded, I'm in. I bet my boutique shop in the Western District. She owned several businesses, and that boutique was one of them, worth a considerable amount. The crowd buzzed with excitement, the stakes were rising. Joseph glanced at me and said flatly, I'm in too. I bet my yacht, the Southbound. The yacht was worth millions. And more importantly, it was named after the 2 of us. Now the pressure was on me. Everyone looked at me. Pacey, Joseph finally couldn't help but speak, that's enough. You can go home now. Hannah immediately sneered, Joseph, if you can't handle it, just say so. Pacey might just be on a hot streak. As if provoked, I abruptly turned to her. I'm in. I bet my apartment in Shallow Bay. Even Joseph was stunned by this. That apartment was one of the significant assets my parents had left me. In a prime location, worth far more than Hannah's boutique. The dice cups were raised again. Hannah rolled first, 9. She raised an eyebrow triumphantly. Joseph rolled 7. I took a deep breath, my hand trembling slightly as I held the dice cup. Lifting the lid. 3 and 5, 8. I lost, by just 1 point. I slumped back into the sofa, exhausted. Hannah's cheers ringing in my ears. She leaned close, whispering so only I could hear. How does it feel to lose? Everything you have, I'm going to take. I looked up, my cheeks flushed from the alcohol. But my eyes were sharp. One more round. Once the floodgates of betting opened, it was hard to close them. In the following rounds, the stakes quickly shifted to more substantial assets. Sometimes I lost unimportant jewelry or small investments. And other times I luckily won some back. I acted like a standard, gradually reckless gambler. Pale when losing. Excited when winning. The combination of alcohol and gambling making me seem somewhat out of control. Joseph tried several times to stop me but was held back. His frown deepened. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly to myself. Perhaps in Joseph's mind, he still thought I was just making a scene, waiting for me, as usual, to return to him for help. The dice game became a microcosm of the battlefield. When I narrowly won one of Hannah's media companies, she finally couldn't take it anymore. Pacey, you're on a lucky streak. Dare to go big? I raised my glass, tilting my head back to down the remaining liquor. The alcohol burned my throat, burning away the last trace of hesitation on my face. Why not? Tell me, how do you want to play? Joseph tried to speak, but Hannah pressed him down. Next round. All in. I bet all my shares in real estate under the song group. What about you? Dare to match? The entire table fell into dead silence. All in. This meant staking everything they openly owned. All eyes were on me, waiting for my answer. I lowered my gaze, silent for a full 10 seconds. All right. I'm in. I bet all my assets. The entire booth area was utterly silent. Joseph suddenly stood up. Pacey, have you lost your mind? Do you even know what you're saying? I smiled faintly. Joseph, at the gambling table, words are binding. Are you scared? Hannah also stood, grabbing Joseph's arm. Joseph, if she wants to give it away, why shouldn't we take it? Are you feeling sorry for her? Turning to me, she said. Pacey, words are empty. Get your lawyer to prepare the documents immediately. We'll do the same. Fine. I replied succinctly. In front of everyone, I called my personal lawyer, instructing him to come immediately with the necessary asset proofs and drafted provisional agreements. Joseph looked at me coldly. Don't regret this. Then, under everyone's gaze, he sat down beside Hannah. His stance was clear. The last shred of hope in my heart vanished. The lawyer arrived quickly. The three of us signed the provisional agreement, which made the outcome of a dice game the final verdict. The dice cup was placed back on the table. One round decides it all. Jordan's voice was dry. Still comparing numbers. The highest number wins everything. Hannah grabbed the dice cup. 5, 6, 11. A very high number. Joseph took the dice cup. No tricks, just a few simple shakes before setting it down. Lifting the lid, 2 sixes. 12. Perfect score. Wow. The table erupted in disbelief. Perfect score. Unbeatable. Win. Definitely win. How can she beat that? Unless she also rolls 12. Impossible. That's a perfect score. Hannah excitedly hugged Joseph, then turned to me. Pacey, it seems fate isn't on your side. Joseph also looked at me, his expression complicated. Pacey, admit defeat now. The things you've lost so far, I might consider. But I just quietly looked at him one last time. After all, starting tomorrow, we would have nothing to do with each other. Then I calmly picked up the dice cup. No unnecessary movements, just a light shake. And set it down firmly on the table. The dice cup was lifted, and everyone's eyes were on it. After a moment of silence, I heard Hannah scream. How is this possible? Under the dice cup were not 2 dice, but 3. 2 bright red 6s, just like Joseph's perfect score. But there was also a bright red 1. Just as they had easily beaten me with a 1 earlier. Now I used that 1 to pay them back. 3 dice, total 13. THTH3? Jordan was the first to exclaim, his eyes nearly popping out. How did 3 dice get into the cup? I couldn't help but sneer. With the right technique and force, I could easily split 1 die in half, creating the 13 points now before them. At this moment, my eyes were clear, though my face still had a flush. My movements showed no sign of drunkenness. 13 points. Lose, pay up. You lost. From the moment I sat down here, I had no intention of looking back. I had given Joseph too many chances. Time and again, he chose his good brother, leaving me behind. Now, openly getting a marriage license, allowing her to humiliate me. This was the outcome he deserved. A dice game at a drinking table? When I used to dominate the gambling tables in Macau, everyone in this room probably couldn't even count dice points. In the past, I lived a carefree life, only returning home to play the good girl when I'd had my fill. I had genuinely wanted to spend my life with Joseph. But it came to this. All because of their own doing. Joseph abruptly pushed Hannah, who was still clinging to him, aside. He strode to the table, staring intently at the 3 dice. Then looked up at me. Pacey, you. Hannah finally snapped out of it. Her eyes red with loss, she lunged at me, trying to scratch. Pacey. You bitch. You set us up. Give back what's ours. I easily sidestepped her attack. She stumbled and nearly fell, looking utterly pathetic. Hannah, mind your manners. I straightened my slightly disheveled clothes, my tone indifferent. At the gambling table, winning and losing depend on skill. When I lost to you earlier, I wasn't this worked up. I stopped looking at their disgraceful display, turning instead to the stunned lawyer and assistant. According to the agreement, the outcome is decided. Please proceed with the asset transfer as quickly as possible. The small items I lost earlier, consider them thrown to the dogs. I don't want them. But everything Mr. and Hannah bet, I want to see the preliminary transfer documents before sunrise. The lawyer immediately snapped to attention, replying respectfully, Yes, miss, we'll handle it right away. Pacey. Joseph's voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot. Did you plan this all along? Were you deceiving me? I smiled faintly. Deceive? Joseph, compared to you and your good brother getting a marriage license right under my nose, compared to you letting her provoke me and trample on the things I treasure time and again, compared to you setting up this trap tonight, hoping to see me lose everything and be humiliated, my little act of self-preservation is nothing. I never planned to scheme against anyone. You allowed me to sit at this table. And you, with your own hands, pushed all the chips in front of me. Lose, and you must accept the consequences. With that, I turned and walked away without looking back. Behind me were Hannah's hysterical sobs and curses, and the stifled, shocked murmurs of the crowd. I took a deep breath, straightening my spine. Joseph, Hannah, the game is over. And your retribution has only just begun. Outside the window, the city lights began to glow. I wrapped my cashmere shawl tighter around myself, gazing at the nightscape. This apartment had been renovated, simply because Joseph loved the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. I had genuinely thought about spending my life with him. What a pity! Behind me came the faint rustling of papers and the low murmurs of the lawyer and assistant discussing matters. After a while, they approached me. Miss, the southbound yacht, the 3 commercial properties in the Eastern District, and the 5% of group's circulating shares under Mr. S. name have all been preliminarily transferred. Hannah's assets are also being catalogued and received, and we expect to have everything clarified by this afternoon. I hummed softly in acknowledgement, not turning around. The southbound, once imbued with sweet meaning. The jewelry Hannah had taken like trophies. And now, the very foundations of their arrogance. All of it had become files on my desk. But I felt no satisfaction, only exhaustion. My phone vibrated incessantly on the table. Joseph's name flashed wildly on the screen, followed by Hannah's, and then the names of those who had once flocked around them. I looked at those names as if watching a silent play unrelated to me. I could probably guess what would be said if I answered. Just it was a joke, why take it so seriously? But I knew that if I had been the one to lose that night, they would have eagerly kicked me out, using every mocking word to slash at my heart, laughing at my overestimation of myself. Since they showed me no mercy, why should I repay them with kindness? I muted my phone, shutting out all the annoying sounds. Block all numbers except for work contacts. Also, contact a few media outlets we're familiar with and leak the news. My assistant immediately understood. I took a sip of the warm water beside me. A faint, almost imperceptible smile curving my lips. Let them know the rules of the game have changed. Since they enjoyed putting me in the spectator's seat and mocking me, I didn't mind letting them taste what it felt like to be the center of gossip. The media frenzy spread faster than I had imagined. Joseph and Hannah gamble away fortunes at nightclub. Stunning turnaround, the good girl is actually a gambling pro? Headlines like these flooded the internet and print media. Scrolling through the news on my tablet, I felt little emotion. News of old Mr. being hospitalized and group stock price dropping followed one after another. I could imagine Joseph's current state of panic. His calls couldn't get through, his messages vanished into the void. I wondered if he had finally experienced the helplessness and cold I felt when I was repeatedly abandoned on the roadside or forgotten at appointments. My phone had become his dedicated hotline since the day the asset transfer began. At first, there were relentless, frantic calls. Later, only a stream of messages remained. From the initial commanding tone, "Pacey, answer the phone. We need to talk, immediately," to later, anxious demands. "Do you have to be so ruthless?" And finally, panicked pleas. "Pacey, I know I was wrong. Please, just answer my phone. You can take all those things if you want. Just don't do this." I never replied. Words, in the face of established facts, were pathetically useless. He had probably forgotten how coldly he had watched Hannah provoke me at the table. How he had personally handed over my grandmother's heirloom bracelet to her. I wonder if that passionately married good brother pair still remembered to get a divorce. Joseph tried to find me for days. When calls and messages proved futile, he began staking out my apartment day and night. Through the clear feed on the intercom screen, I could see him standing in the cold wind. His once meticulously styled hair was now disheveled. His expensive suits wrinkled and creased. Several times, he tried to force his way in, only to be turned away by the security guards. Finally, the apartment manager reluctantly called me. "Miss Shin. He refuses to leave. There's really nothing we can do." I sighed and eventually agreed to see him. I needed to put a final end to this farce myself. Wrapping my coat tighter, I met Joseph in the apartment lobby. In just a few days, he had become gaunt. The dark circles under his eyes impossible to hide. Stubble covering his jaw. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he instinctively lunged forward. "Pacey. You finally agreed to see me." I stepped back, stopping his attempt to approach. and calmly walked to a seat opposite him. "Mister, please sit. I don't have much time." The formal address seemed to stun Joseph. He froze for a moment before slumping into the seat. "Pacey, I'm sorry. I know a simple sorry isn't enough." His eyes reddened. "I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. That night, I was drinking, I was crazy, I wasn't myself." He rambled incoherently, apologizing over and over. Blaming the absurdity of that night. Blaming the alcohol. Blaming his momentary lapse in judgment. I felt a momentary daze. The man before me now was a far cry from the one I had seen that night. How much of this repentance was genuine? "Are you done?" My expression was indifferent, without a trace of emotion. "If you're only apologizing for getting the license that night, there's no need. A piece of paper doesn't matter to me." He looked up sharply. Then what?" "Joseph." I looked at him calmly, as if stating an unrelated fact. "Do you remember our first anniversary? I had prepared for so long. You said you had a sudden company meeting. I waited until the restaurant closed, only to see on Hannah's social media that you were playing games with her all night at an esports hotel." His face turned pale. "Do you remember the time I had a fever of 39 degrees? I called you, and you said you were busy helping Hannah pick out a new car and told me to take some medicine. I took a taxi alone to the hospital for an 4 drip. My phone died, and I sat in that cold hospital corridor until dawn." His lips began to tremble. "Do you remember the first time you formally introduced me to your friends? Hannah pulled you aside in front of everyone to whisper something, leaving me alone in the corner like a fool. When you came back, you just casually said she was in a bad mood. That night, I was mocked for not fitting in with your group." My tone remained flat. With each memory I recounted, the color drained further from his face. His body trembling almost imperceptibly. "And on my birthday, you promised to go to an exhibition with me." Halfway there, Hannah called, saying her water pipe had burst. "You dropped me off at a suburban highway intersection and told me to find my own way home. It was raining heavily that day. I couldn't get a taxi and walked 3 kilometers to find a subway station." "Joseph." I looked at his now ashen face, speaking each word deliberately. "When you did all these things, were you also drunk?" Joseph's face was ghastly pale. He stammered, unable to speak. "Every time you forgot our promises for her, left me behind, let her provoke and trample on my feelings, you were perfectly..." Ignoring his devastated expression, I turned and entered the gala. During the auction, Joseph acted like a madman. Every time one of my items came up, he would raise his paddle recklessly, bidding items worth a few thousand up to hundreds of thousands. His gaze never left my back, burning with intensity. But I never looked back. Belated guilt and affection, I had no use for them. A friend accompanying me hesitated. "The family has taken a big hit lately, and Joseph lost so much to you. How can he afford this kind of bidding?" I raised my chin, looking straight ahead, my tone indifferent. "If he wants to bid, let him. Consider it a contribution to charity." As the gala ended, I walked toward the parking lot. It was raining heavily. Joseph still chased after me, breaking through the security guards. The rain soaked him completely, his hair plastered to his forehead, utterly disheveled. "Pacey! Pacey! What do I have to do for you to forgive me? I'll give you everything back. Everything I have. Just come back." I paused, my hand on the car door, and slowly turned around. Rainwater streamed down his face, indistinguishable from tears. He looked so pitiful, so pathetic. If it had been before, my heart would have ached. But now, my heart was as still as water. "Joseph." My voice pierced through the rain, landing clearly in his ears and in my own heart. "Have you forgotten? Lose, and you pay the price. The car door closed, shutting him out completely, casting him out of my world. The car drove away steadily. In the rearview mirror, his figure, slumped to his knees in the puddles, grew smaller and smaller, until it finally disappeared into the depths of the rainy night. The windshield wipers swung back and forth rhythmically, as if drawing a final period on the past. My world had finally fallen silent, and ahead of me lay a brand new journey, mine alone.